Good morning to all, and welcome to the work session of the St. Lucie County School Board, May 26, 2020. If you would please stand with me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will begin with our public meeting, our public hearing this morning. The proposed approval of the declaration of real property as surplus and agreement of purchase and sale with Land America LLC. Are there any in the audience that wish to join us? Hearing none, Mr. Superintendent will receive your recommendation.
I recommend the board declare the property surplus, determine that the sale of the property is in the best interest of the district and the public, approve and ratify execution of the agreement for purchase and sale, approve sale of the property subject to the terms of the agreement, and authorize board members, the superintendent, and board agents to close the transaction as submitted.
Board members, we have a recommendation from the superintendent. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
A motion and a second.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Before we leave
Before we
the public
leave the
hearing,
public hearing, I just want to thank everyone on behalf of the board members for all their work in getting that accomplished for us. It's been a while in coming, and I know it's a relief to all to have that property off the charts anymore. All right, we will move then. The public hearing is closed, and we will move to board actions. Mr. Superintendent will receive your recommendation.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. Just want to make a couple of comments before I make the recommendation. This is really in regard to the two actions with the Charter Board 3.01 and 3.02. I just want to remind the board of the position that we're in as a school district right now, and just make some general comments, particularly with Renaissance Charter High School. The board came together back on March 12th, and we approved the charter application with certain conditions. Our staff tried to negotiate with them, but all of the conditions that we had put in, the three regarding bus transportation, limit the number of non-certified full-time substitutes, and the school's principal must be a Renaissance employee. None of these were, they were all rejected, amendments to the standard charter contract, or they were all rejected. And legally, we really don't have an option because the standard state charter contract states that I guess if there's going to be any flexibility, it has to be agreed upon by both parties, and that was not the case. The specific language is that any terms or condition of the proposed charter contract that differs from the standard charter contract adopted by rule of the State Board of Education shall be presumed a limitation on the charter school flexibility. The one that I think causes me the most, bothers me the most, really is the lack of bus transportation, and it's an equity issue. The Miami Herald a couple of years ago in 2017 talked about many charter schools can, in a report that said that many charter schools can cultivate a higher performing kids from families with more resources and weed out more challenging students from their application process and schools' policies. An example would be schools that would demand volunteer time from parents. If you don't put in that volunteer time, then you can't be admitted to the school. As public schools, traditional public schools, we accept all students and glad and do that. You know, that's our job and that's our role. We talked about the Statue of Liberty. We take every child in, but that's not the case really for the charters. In this particular one with the transportation, I worry about the inequity that it creates, even though it's in state statute by the legislators. And I just wanted to give the board, before I recommend, a couple of just some stats here. As a school district, we're about 75%, 76% free and reduced lunch, very diverse district with about 30 approximately 33% white, around 32% Hispanic, and about 31% African American or black. And so we have a very diverse school district in the transportation. Renaissance Tradition is the only charter school that doesn't provide transportation, and it really, when I looked at the data for the school, the students' white population represents 43% of the student body. That's a student body, I believe, of about 1,144 students. 43% white, 35% Hispanic, and 14% African American. So you can see a disparity there, a racial disparity in the school. And then when you look at the free and reduced lunch, this free and reduced lunch is the lowest in the district at 36% compared to the district at 76%. When we look at Renaissance St. Lucie, which does offer transportation, their numbers rarely represent the school district. 30% white, 32% Hispanic, 32% African American, and 60% on free and reduced lunch. So what I'm saying is that I think that with an equity issue, those parents that have the means to get kids to school and be able to drive them in probably what we would call an upper middle class neighborhood, a more affluent neighborhood, get the benefit of get in. And the children that would need their own transportation, the parents that would not have the economic means to do so, it creates a disparity, an economic disparity. And I'm afraid that this is, what we're seeing across the state with the haves and the have-nots. So that's a concern that was brought up, that was raised with the folks. They rejected it. Maybe that's the innovation. I don't know. But there is really no innovation that I see in the contract itself. But so it's kind of with a little bit of reluctance, not a little bit of reluctance, but great reluctance that I have to make the recommendation to approve that based upon, again, state statute that we could fight this, we could go to court, but it's going against the what's already in law, and we've done this before and lost that battle. That would probably create unnecessary legal cost, of which I don't think we would have the appetite to do that. But I do want the public to be aware of that, that there is an economic and a racial disparity when transportation is an example of transportation not being provided for our students, and that's something we're going to have to closely monitor, not only here in St. Lucie County, but across the state, and bring that to our legislators' attention. With the other one, that deals with the enrollment. Again, when we had found out that there were some, both schools have over 50% of their instructional staff are subs, and we were told we would receive information that would clarify that. I, as superintendent, never received one piece of information, so I'll go along with that. There's 50% of substitutes teaching in both of those school centers, another smaller percentage of out-of-field. So that's another issue that caused concern, but that was also rejected when we asked to put language in for both regarding the amount of substitutes that are in there. So I recommend the board approve the consent agenda items 3.01 and 3.03 as submitted. Let me show it.
Ms. Hensley, do I hear a second?
Do I hear a second?
Thank you, Mr. Ingersoll. Before we take the vote, we'll have comments. And Mr. Ingersoll, we'll begin with you. Okay. Ms. Hensley?
As you know, I've gotten quite a lot of input and queries about this. Several of them from the tradition area themselves, quite concerned about this school. However, although I'm concerned about the continual efforts to erode local control when it comes to charter schools, the replication of our traditional programs not being innovative, the lack of qualified educators, having so many substitutes, and there seems to be less accountability to the local community because they are not a local board. Although I have great concerns about the whole process, the new state law gives us no flexibility, basically. We can't afford to waste taxpayer dollars when we know in the lay of the land would mean it would be significant defeat in the courts. So as I'm a constitutional officer, I am pledged to uphold the law, although I am determined to continue to try to change that law whenever possible. because I do think that there's an issue, but I think our hands are tied. Therefore, we'll continue, and I'll be supportive of that. As you know, I have my recommendation, but we think we need to be very cognizant of what's going on in the state, and this is just another piece to take away local control of constitutional officers in their duty.
Thank you, Ms. Hensley. Mr. Ingersoll?
I totally agree with Ms. Hensley. Are they planning on trying to open in the fall? Or is it the fall of next year?
Fall of 2021 next year.
If we filed a claim, when can we, if we wanted to add in the transportation piece and then wanted to draw back from that, what would be the cost? You'd have to go to that microphone over there.
Good morning. Mr. Ingersoll, could you repeat your question?
My question is if
Hello?
we took this motion back and wanted the superintendent to negotiate transportation, and we said, okay, we'll take it to court, and then let's say at the 9th minute we decided not to take it to court and just sign it.
Here we go.
When would that time, how long would that time period take?
I can't hear.
It could potentially delay the process a couple months.
Hello?
There's an intermediate step where we go to mediation, but obviously that would undoubtedly be unsuccessful, and then they would file
Can't hear you,
an
Donna.
administrative complaint that we haven't, that we're imposing a limitation on their flexibility per the statute, and then that would get filed and move forward relatively
Can I hear
quickly.
Jonathan?
So it would only
Hello?
delay it a few months at best.
So it wouldn't like delay it like 6 months?
Unlikely, because they would push it very quickly.
Okay.
I cannot hear.
Dr. Mills?
Dr. Mills or Ms. Helson, do you have a comment?
I can't hear. Can you all hear me?
Yes, Ms. Hilson?
Yes,
we
Ms.
can.
Hilson, we can.
Okay, Donna, did you want to speak? Donna, I can't hear you.
She's on
Can you
mute.
hear Donna?
She's on mute.
No, I think she's muted.
Does she want to speak?
Dr. Mills? if
Dr. Mills, if you'd unmute your mic, we could hear you.
Hello?
There.
There you
There.
are.
Okay, well, I missed the whole, I
I
couldn't
did too.
hear anyone.
Put your mask
I
And
couldn't
I could hear Carol, but I couldn't hear anyone else for
No.
quite a while. Ever since Mr. Ingersoll started talking, we couldn't hear anyone. So we've lost the whole section of conversation.
Just to make it short to the point, I was trying to find out if we delayed it a little bit, how much financial burden it would be on them if we delayed it, the transportation piece, by trying to file some court motions at a lesser cost. But the answer was it wouldn't put any damper or any pressure on them to help the district in changing the contract language for transportation. Was the essence of my question and answer.
What did Attorney Ferguson say? Oh, that's what he said?
He basically said it wouldn't slow anything down, that it would still keep on going, and it would just cost the district money.
Put in it, giving consideration to all of what we talked about, the academic disparity, and giving account of everything the superintendent concerns are. We are, as Miss Hensley said, we are officers for the state of Florida. We have to abide by the rules and regulations, and if we're going to do any changing at all, we have to, as a local group and as a state, change the law. But with the law being what it is now, I move to, my recommendation is just to approve it approve the superintendent's recommendation.
Ms. Hilson?
Ms. Hilson?
Do you have a comment?
Yes, yes. Can you hear me okay, Debbie?
Yes,
Yes, we can.
I think we're back to the point that we have been at. These charter schools are public schools that do receive public money and yet have a different level of expectation by the state of Florida, which I find very curious, which I hold our legislators responsible for the behavior that's going on with charter schools. I find it curious that sometimes people don't understand, even educators don't understand, charter schools are public schools with a nonprofit front and a for-profit business they are running to make money. We, as public schools, are not in the business of making money. We are in the business of high-level education, fairness for students. And the busing situation is absolutely a racial divide in St. Lucie County. It is unacceptable. It infuriates me that we have come through integration, segregation, and we're back to segregating students again by the haves and the have-nots. And as educators, this just isn't acceptable. The other piece is that we continue to have teachers working, teaching our students in St. Lucie County who are non-degreed, non-certified, out of field at such a huge rate. And of course, it's done on the cheap. So until, as all our board members, Donna has stated, and Catherine and Troy, we change the laws, which are not fair laws. And who suffers? The children suffer. And we have no local control, because even if we reject this, it's going to go to Tallahassee and bounce right back, and we really don't have a voice. But I would plead with our parents, if you're not educators as parents, please investigate the child's teacher, your child's teacher. You need to find out and be confident that they are certified, that they are degreed, that they are in field, especially with our higher level maths and sciences. That's a great concern to me, that our students will not be prepared when they leave and go on to another career, college career, so forth. So yeah, this is something morally that's unacceptable to me, and yet I feel as though we really don't have a choice. I appreciate Mr. Gent sharing the information with us, but I do speak against it because it's just wrong. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Hilson. Okay, board members, we have the recommendation before us. Mr. Jones.
Let me redo the recommendation only because I think I left one of them out. I recommend the board approve numbers 3.01 through 3.03. I believe I left out 03 before.
You didn't put the word through in there. But
Okay, all right, there we go.
So we do have 3 items under the recommendation for approval. We have had the recommendation, a motion, and a second. Oh, it is now time to vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I'm not hearing.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Then the motion is approved unanimously. We now move to our items for discussion. Mr. Superintendent?
Thank you. Just a few items here. I want to just give the board some general information and answer any questions. First off, as far as our summer school program goes, I believe you have a handout in front of you. It should be a front and back, and it's also up on the screen as well. And so if we can get Dr. Wild to pop up, if she can't, I'll do it. But if we can have her come on and then just briefly go through that. In essence, we're going to be doing a virtual, it's called Spark, Summer Prep Activities to Recharge. And this will be virtual for all of our K through 4 students. That's will reach over 13,484 kids. And there'll be lessons in English, language arts, and math. I'm just going to do it. And you can do this within 30 days, or you can stretch it out over the summer. And then we're going to ask the students then to come back out, and they'd get some kind of credit or incentives for doing that. We'll be mailing the curriculum itself, the actual curriculum, will be mailed courtesy of the Children's Service Council and the Ed Foundation of St. Lucie County, so we want to thank them for paying for the postage that will go to all of our K through 4 students. The second part is what we normally do, our secondary credit recovery, where we target kids that are behind grades in credits, and we work on grade 8, and then our seniors, and that's what we normally do anyway, and then our alternative ed programs. We'll also have a summer Caterpillar camp, which is virtual, and the virtual one, the one I just mentioned is the not virtual, but is the Spark is the actual handout that we'll send out. That will be the ELA and math. And then the virtual one is called Caterpillar, where you start out as a caterpillar and you open up into a beautiful butterfly when you learn more. And that's going to help 2,500 of our kids, K through 4, and they'll be identified by the school based upon their academic standing. So in essence, what we're doing is trying to reach out to those students that need the most help and support. We'll have teachers. It'll be in small groups. There'll be a lot of one-on-one tutoring. There'll also be instructional coaches that are involved. So I think we have a very good plan here to work with our kids, even though the ones in front of teachers will be virtually. The other one will be for parents to work with their kids regarding K through 4 on English and mathematics curriculum. And so that's it in a nutshell of what we're going to be doing for our summer program. Some of the agencies that we work with, the Boys and Girls Club and other agencies that are affiliated through the community and some through the Children's Service Council, will also be providing the curriculum for folks. We won't be providing bus transportation this summer. We feel that it's too much of a risk to our drivers, and we've got issues of working with our buses and cleansing our buses. It's just, it's a different time right now. So and the financial resources, we need to be as tight as we can going into the next year. So there really won't be any of that going on. Any questions on the summer program before I move on? Okay, so in a nutshell, we'll have curriculum for K through 4 for all of our students in those grade levels that'll be mailed to them. And then for identified students, we'll do virtual learning with teachers in very, very small groups. It'll be a little bit different from what's going on now, because there will be hopefully more FaceTime on the computer, which is not ideal, especially for the children that we're trying to reach, but it's the best alternative that we have going on right now. As you noticed today when you came in, we're gradually getting ready to re-entry for this building itself. And so we're going to have specific protocols. We've got a draft reentry plan that I shared with the board 2 weeks ago, and we're tweaking that out right now. But what this will be, really today we have some skeleton crews coming in for student assignment for parents that are moving into the community or registering, particularly for kindergarten. We're probably about 400 students down from where we normally are during this time at the end of May. So we're going to be able to face-to-face help parents register their children, no matter what grade level it would be in. Also, HR will also have a small crew here as well for the next week or so. And then once we get into around June I believe it's June the 4th, we will expand in the building with small groups that may rotate in and out based upon their job function and as they're directed by their supervisor. But everyone that comes into the building will be screened, as we were this morning, with the temperature checks. We'll be requiring folks to wear the mask when they're interacting with other staff members and when they're moving about in the building. It's all written out in here. We'll continue to follow the DOH and the CDC guidelines and work closely with them. But we will have a screening station out front, and all employees are expected to come in through the front entranceway, as well as our visitors, and to make sure that they are wearing the mask. Questions on that? And then with our school centers themselves on around June the 4th as well, when we get past when our teachers are complete and we're done with our 10-month folks, then we'll have the building here will be open from 8 to 4, and I believe our school centers will be open from 8 to 3 with the principal and the 12-month staff that would be there as well, adhering to the same protocols. Okay, let's see
Madam
here.
Chair.
We continue to do
Dr. Mills?
Dr. Mills, did you have a comment or a question?
Yes, I've been trying to comment on a couple of things, but I don't think you were hearing me in the office over there. But I wanted to know about the 5th through 12th grade. Do we have anything in place for them? I've heard K through 4th, but I wanted to get some clarity on 5th through 12th over the summer. Also, my second question is, do the parents that have not yet registered their children for kindergarten, is there steps that they can take now to get them registered, or do they have to wait until some notification before they can start coming? And where do they go? Do they go to our office building there, our district building, or is there another place location?
The answer to the first question is the curriculum is K through 4 only. Normally in summer school, it's only for third grade. It's students for third grade retention to help them be promoted. So we have expanded that significantly this year to do K through 4 virtual learning, and then with eighth graders and with those in high school, credit recovery programs. With registering a student assignment, there is online registration, which a lot of folks do, but we know that some families do not have that capacity. That's why we are opening the building for them to come in and do face-to-face. So you can either do it online, which is the preferred way, which we went to earlier this school year, or you could come into the building and the staff members will help them navigate through that.
Okay, thank you, Superintendent Gent.
Y'all waiting on me. We also are training staff members. We don't know what the school will look like when we come back. Again, we continue to work closely with the health department, but we're training as far as temperature checks, safety. We're training all of our bus drivers. We are ordering different equipment, face masks, thermometers, thermal thermometers, similar to what you saw this morning, and we continue to do that. With our summer feeding sites, I had some information. We've fed so far approximately 131,298 folks. We're going to take 2 schools off the sites, Morningside and Westgate, but we will be adding some feeding locations to the Sable Chase Apartments, the St. Lucie Apartments, as well as some of the other groups that we normally contract out through, like the Boys and Girls Club. So we'll continue to do our feeding program and expand it to a couple of places. Dr. Prince has a committee made up of district staff members as well as principals that we're reviewing information from different communities across the country and school districts regarding the reopening of school and what that would look like. The main thing right now is that we think we have a pretty good handle on what the different options are. You look at different countries that may have attempted to reopen, and so they'll continue to work closely. We'll keep the board. Every time we meet, we'll give you an update as to where we are. It's such an unknown right now because we just don't know what the health climate will look like, I guess, in August. And we want to make sure that we bring something to the school board that represents keeping our children and our staff safe. You know, so we look at different options, like I mentioned before, whether it's an alternating day, an alternating week, different virtual options that are there. How does that affect transportation? You know, you can't socially distance on a school bus, 74-passenger school bus. I think you could fit 7 or 8 kids on there. So these are challenges that the whole country would face. So we continue to work with that. Different school centers, if you have a single point of entry or a couple of points of entry for bike riders or walkers or drop-offs, each school is unique in their geographic footprint, if you will. And so we're working with the principals right now, too, to come up with some plans. And I feel comfortable where we are, but it's still an unknown regarding working with the health department and what the latest data will show. And then finally, graduations started today, our virtual graduations. There's 2 today. I believe it's LPA and Westwood. And then for our in-person graduations, we went out with the health department on last week to the Lawnwood, laid out our plan of action there, where our students on the field would be 6 feet apart in every direction, where the students would also wear the mask, where we would sit at least every other row or every 2 rows in the bleachers, and how we can fit for the larger graduations. We think we have a really good plan to fit folks in. Again, limit of 2 tickets per family. Encourage everybody strongly to come only in 1 vehicle to come. The biggest challenge we'll face is going to be heat and the weather. And so we will encourage folks to bring umbrellas, particularly in the bleachers, whether there's a shower, but more importantly for the heat, because it's going to be hot, and we're kind of relaxing some of the guidelines for the students themselves, and just making sure that they're comfortable in their dress, because it'll be warm for both of them if there's not a breeze blowing. And then I'll work with the board members about, because we're going to have that stage that we used to have out at the fairgrounds, so it'll be limited in the amount of people that we can have on there, socially distanced, but we could, I'm just talking to y'all individually about if you want to come to all, or if you just want to come to a couple of them. I think that'll be the board's choice. Regarding that, I would probably say we have a representation from the board at the different ones, just because of the social distancing and not being able to fit everybody up on the stage, but we can work through that. We've also have a plan with our special needs children that would be graduating, so we pretty much, I don't think we've had any stone left unturned. The parents, from what I'm hearing, have been mostly very, very receptive that we're doing something like this, and we'll continue to work closely with the health department as long as they say it's safe to do so, which right now they're saying that, but it's a month away, so we'll continue to monitor that, and then hopefully we can have a nice ceremony for the children. They can walk across the stage, see each other, and bring closure to their senior year, which has been a very traumatic time for them, and we've recognized that. That concludes my comments.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. There being no other business to come before us today, we are adjourned.